Years ago, you used to be able to just put up a funnel and it would probably do well for you. But as time has gone on and as the markets have matured, has attention has dropped, as AI has come out, as more competitors have come out, D2C has just gotten a lot harder. And there's a lot more things that you need in place in order to run a successful D2C business. So I wanted to make a video and walk you guys through exactly what that looks like. I built and scaled my own multi-million dollar business. I've worked behind the scenes of many dozens of 7 and 8 figure businesses. And there are commonalities between those successful, healthy D2C businesses that other non-healthy ones, whether that's on the profit side or on the lifestyle side, have. So I wanted to walk you through that. So before we jump into that, just in case you don't know me, my name is Jeremy Reeves. I am the owner of ScaleAdvisors.com, author of the best-selling book, author of the number one best-selling book, The Scalable Profit Model. Wow, that was pretty bad. And I've done somewhere in the range of $200 million or so between myself and my clients. So I've been around the block. I know kind of what's needed with all this. So to start off, why? Why does this matter, right? Why not just throw up an ad, have a product, and call it a day, right? So when you have everything in place that you should, in various areas of the business, which we'll get into, and then data side and marketing operations, finance, those sorts of things, you end up having more profit, more cash flow. You have less daily stress on your hands, more time freedom. Your employees aren't driving you crazy with everything all day long. Your business is worth more. So if you go to sell it, it has a higher enterprise value. It actually becomes sellable. A lot of D2C brands are not even sellable. And even if they do, they get a really bad enterprise value. And it even does things like it even helps you retain employees longer. Employees that stay there bring in their friends. They stay longer. It helps you reduce cost. It helps you not lose opportunity cost because hiring and replacing employees, you're losing a lot of opportunity cost. That's a separate video, but there's so many benefits to doing this, and it just helps you sleep better at night, right? So all the things, all the reasons why you started the business in the first place, it helps with all that. All right, so let's start with the foundation. All right, so what are the just the foundational things that a D2C brand should have in their business? Okay, and there's only really a couple of them. One would be a mission and a vision. So what is the mission of the company? What is the vision of the company? Why do you have the company? And this is important for yourself for those days that things just suck and it's just hard and you want to give up, right? It's really important to have that big audacious mission and vision in the company because it becomes that driving force, like the engine that drives everything else throughout the company. And it helps your employees because when they go to work, they want to have something they're working towards. It's not just about getting a paycheck. Kind of for you, it's probably not just about money, whatever your business is. There's probably some sort of purpose or mission or vision or whatever behind it. So it's good to just get that all written down. The next one would be core values. This one, when it comes to employees and culture, and just making decisions throughout the company that creates unity within the company, core values are so important. And I always thought I grew up as a marketer. I mean, I've been marketing for 20 years now. I've been an entrepreneur. And in the early days, I was just like, let's just get customers in the door. And then over time, I realized as I was building Peak Biome, this is really where this struck hard with me, was getting core values in place and like what is the personality of your business, right? Core values are really important because you hire and fire based on them. Okay, I've literally been in situations where we had to fire people because they didn't fit the core values and they were creating toxicity throughout the culture of the business. They were poisoning the well, so to speak. So we had to get rid of them. And so core values are so important. And the last thing with the foundation is a brand document, right? So this is just a document showing It's the DNA of the business. You know, the colors, the avatar that you're going after, what you sell. It's all the basics of the business put into one place. It's really good to give new employees. It's good to give AI if you're training them on your models and on your business. It's really good document to have. All right, so that's the foundation. There's a couple quick things before we get into like the meat and potatoes of this. So let's when I'm working with businesses, one of the first pieces I always start with is data. All right. So, do you have an attribution tracking system in place? And thankfully in DTC, there's really good ones out there. There's Triple Whale, and you can use Hyros or Segmetrics or Supermetrics. Or I mean, there's a bunch of them in place. The important thing is you have some sort of attribution system in place so that as you're building out your data dashboard, which we'll get into next, you have actual proper attribution, and you know that at least to within somewhere between 5 to 10%, 90 to 95% accuracy, uh, that your data is accurate. Okay, because you need to know if you started a relationship on Facebook and then it ended on Google or it ended on Amazon, you need to be able to track them the best you can. It's not perfect. It will never be perfect, especially because of pixels and because of multi-platform, like how people buy. They might hear about you on Facebook. They pop into Amazon, maybe type your name there. They go into Google, maybe they get an SEO result or an AI generated result now. Maybe they find you on some sort of I don't know, like a review site. I mean, there's so many different ways that people can find your business. It's really important to be able, again, to the best of your ability, to track that. All right. So it's some sort of attribution system. The next thing would be, if you're a founder listening to this, an executive dashboard. All right. So I'm going to talk about the data dashboard next, but the executive dashboard is basically, you have all of your data that you're pulling in across marketing, operations, finance, all the various areas. The executive dashboard is your control center. All right. It's the thing that you can wake up, you can look at. If you're on vacation, you could pop in, look for 3 minutes and say, okay, cool. Everything, green lights across the board. We're good. Or, hey, there's a red light, a yellow light, but I know when there's a yellow light, the team's going to handle it. They're only going to reach out to me if there's an issue. And then the red light is something that, if you're looking at that, there's an issue in that, it has to be, do a deep dive on whatever's causing the red flag, and that's where your data dashboard comes in, where you can do more granular problem solving. But it's just simply, the exec dashboard is actually really good if you're going to go sell your business, and you can just look. You could give the dashboard to the buyers and say, hey, look, here's like all the data. Here's what I look at every single day, and I know where to put my focus based on what all the numbers are showing me. And then finally, the data dashboard. All right. So you need to be able to track all of the metrics that you can make decisions on. All right. And there are many ways to do data dashboards. Most people do them wrong. They just put in a whole bunch of different metrics. Nobody ever looks at it. They're not set up in a way where you can actually make data-driven decisions, that sort of thing. So get a data dashboard in place. I'm not going to go into like the specifics of that, but a couple things you really need on them to, at least at a very high level, to make really good decisions would be tracking your contribution margin by SKU and by channel, your attribution by channel. So you can look at both short and long-term trends, your LTV. And then when you're doing LTV, that should be contribution margin adjusted LTV. It should be by time frame. You should be able to segment it and drill down by traffic source. And then, of course, a whole bunch, you can do it by location, by country, by time of day, by day of week. There's a whole bunch of different, by coupons, first order product. Like, there's a whole bunch of different ways to break down LTV, and I highly recommend it. That one should be, of all of the metrics, LTV should be leaned on heavily, basically. Capital return velocity is one that you should have in there. Overhead per customer, operating leverage. Like, there's a whole bunch of really big metrics that you should be tracking as the owner. And then for each individual department, then you go more granular. So when you see issues on a higher level, then you still have all the data to then say, oh, well, let's dive into this. So for just one example would be, if you're looking at your refund rate and you've seen that your refund rate has spiked over the last 90 days, well, what's wrong? I don't know. I mean, that's if you were asking me that question, if came to me and you're like, well, what's going on? Like, I mean, I don't know. What does your data say, right? It's you go by the data. You get the data, you analyze the data, and then you make decisions based on the data. And if you can't do that, you're going to be losing money, right? If you don't have a data dashboard, I promise you, you are losing a lot of money. There are leaks that you cannot see because how could you see them? You're blind to them because you don't have the data. So you get the data, you all of a sudden have 20/20 vision, and then assuming you know how to read the data and analyze it and make decisions based off it, then you can go and fix the issue. One more quick thing with data is make sure that you're double verifying all the data for accuracy to make sure the data is actually accurate, because you can't make good decisions based on bad data. You have to have clear, accurate, clean data. Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes. In most cases, it's actually better to make decisions based on no data and just your gut versus bad data. Because with bad data, you're guaranteed to make a bad decision. With no data, you at least have your gut, right? Which your subconscious is picking up on all these little cues as you go about your day. So you at least have your gut and you can go based on that. Whereas with bad data, it's telling you, hey, do this, but this is wrong. So you're going to make a bad decision. All right. So super, super important there. So now let's get into marketing systems. What do you need on the marketing side? Start with customer research, right? So go in, do really, really good customer research. And I'm not talking about demographics, right? Going out and saying, hey, like we sell to 40 plus women. That is a horrific customer avatar. It tells you absolutely nothing about that person. And your copy, your messaging is going to be weak if that's all you have. What you should be doing is you should be mining the internet and talking to your customers, finding out exactly what their problems are, finding out exactly what their solutions, or sorry, what their objections are to buying your product or similar products. You have to find out like why do they want to solve the problem? What are the things that they've tried in the past? What are the desires they have? What is the outcome that they're hoping to get with your product? Right? You have to go through all the frustration points that have caused them, that have led them to this point of making a decision if they want to use your product or not. Right? There's so many things that should go into this file. Thankfully, with AI, it's very easy to do now. This used to take $5,000 to $10,000 in like weeks of time for some outside consultant to do this for you, or weeks of your own time. I remember as a copywriter, when I used to just write copy, I was a copywriter like 12 years ago. That was the first half of my career, basically. I mean, I would spend 2 weeks just on research before writing any copy for one of my clients. This is why I've gotten such good results over the years. Next one would be competitive analysis and a monitoring system. So I want to be very clear that I am not at all a fan of the whole like funnel hacking culture that has pervaded this industry. I think it is horrific for everybody involved. I cannot stand just this whole thing of going in and just ripping people off. Oh, it drives me absolutely insane. However, there is a place for understanding your competitors. And I don't think that you should spend a lot of your time on this looking what other people are doing. I think you should, be an entrepreneur and innovate and do things for yourself instead of just copying other people. But it helps to have some sort of competitive analysis. So one of the big things I like to do is a competitive gap analysis. So you basically go to AI or go to your favorite research tool and say like, hey, my business is this. It probably already knows about your business, but like, hey, my business is this. This is what we're selling. This is who we're selling to, etc. Here are my competitors. Go out, find my top competitors, create a competitive gap analysis where we're looking for essentially, here's who we're serving, and here are all the things that audience wants. Here's all the things the marketplace is currently providing. What are the gaps? Right? What are the gaps between what they want and what the marketplace is currently providing, so that you can go in, fill that gap, create yourself a blue ocean, and go and live long and prosper. So super, super important. And then also be just constantly monitoring that. Again, just a high level look at what they're doing, just so you have good context and you could see where the puck is going. All right. It's really good to understand. It gives you really good signals on kind of where the marketplace is. So then you know what you should be doing next. Next thing is a customer feedback and survey process. All right, and I know this is in marketing. A lot of times this would be in operations. I actually think it's just as important for marketing as it is for operations to understand what customers think of the product, do surveys on them, find out where it's weak, what they love most about it. Why? Well, number one, because the quality of your product is the number one determining factor of your lifetime value. That's number one. Number two, from a marketing lens, if you understand what customers don't like about your product and you also understand what they love about your product, well, guess what that helps you do? It helps you write better ads. It helps you write better messaging on your landing pages, on your sales pages, in your follow-up sequences, and all the things that you're doing, right? So it's really important to understand what your customer is thinking. Next one would be a creative testing system. All right. So thankfully, AI is making this one a lot easier than it used to be. With Andromeda, the Facebook ads, everything with that, they want pretty much now they want higher quality and higher quantity. And so you need a system that helps you produce ads, more ads, faster and better. The best way that I could, without going into super detail about this, the best framework that you can use for this is think about it like fishing. All right. You throw a bunch out into the water, you're changing lures. They would be your hooks for your ads, right? The lures would be your hooks. So this one, you'd throw a crankbait. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, now we're going to throw a worm. That didn't work. Now we're going to throw a live shiner. Oh, wow, that hit, right? That's your hook hitting, resonating with the market. Okay, so now you have something that you know is a message that is resonating with the market. Well, then what do? Now you need a whole bunch of variety of that hook. So you go fishing for the hook. Once you get the fish on, which would be signals that the market is resonating with your hook, then you go deep into that. So maybe you do static image ads versus videos. Maybe you do. There's a whole bunch of different types of videos that you could talk about using the same overall messaging, just delivering it in a different way to attract different types of people. All right. Maybe you could do testimonials, you could do educational, you could do contrarian, you could do topical. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do this, and you can mix and match them. So if you have, video versus image, and then you have, I don't know, 5 different types, and then you have in terms of like contrarian versus topical versus educational, etc. 5 different types of that, which there will be more. And then like 5 different styles of those, right? Well, then it's 2 times 5 is 10 times 5. That's 50 variations just from that. And there's definitely more than 5 for each of those. It's more like 2 times 10 times 10, right? So it'd be, what's that, 200 variations of creative just on that one angle. All right. And then if you layer in, you could probably come up with 10 different ways of saying the same thing. So that's another 10. So that's like 2,000 variations that you could have. You need a system for this that helps build the ads, that helps find what messaging is resonating, and then just expanding on that. All right, that's the best and fastest way to do this. Next one would be profit efficiency ratio. And that is just simply how efficiently each product does on a marketing sense for you. So you're going to look at your like EPC, you're going to look at your contribution margin, and you're going to get, if you put that your revenue and all that stuff. I have a whole spreadsheet for this. That you mark them all down, all your products, and the average, the total divided by the number of products. So if the total was whatever 1,000 divided by 10 products, then that means the average is 100. So it'd be like kind of 1 is like the P equals 1 sort of thing. And then you're just going to look and look at, so some of them are going to be below that, some of them are going to be above that. Above that means that they're more efficient, which means that they're more efficiently converting revenue into profit, basically. So you're going to push them harder, right? Versus the ones that are dragging you down, you can stop selling. Good example of this is I actually had a client where we did this, and she had one of her things was rated a 0.06. So if you look at like the average is 1, her lowest one was a 0.06. I think her highest was like a 1.6 or something, 1.5, 1.6, something like that, which means it's basically 50% more efficient than the other ones. That one was whatever that is, 93% less efficient or 94% than the other ones, right? So when you're doing a promotion, when you're pushing products, when you're trying to figure out which ones to scale, well, that profit efficiency ratio gives you a very clear way of doing that. The next one would be all metrics broke down granularly. So I already talked about this in the data dashboard. You need to a good example of this is sales. All right. So if you look at the sales process, uh, there you have to get people to apply for a call, then they have to show up for the call, then they have to, get to the spot in the call where you're giving them a pitch, and then they close, and then they give you money, etc. So like if you break that down, you need to be able to break each step of the each different piece of marketing down by step that the customer goes through. So even on if you're selling Facebook ads, right? So you're looking at what's the first thing? Click through rate. All right, and then you're looking at like cost per click, and then you're looking at conversion rate, and then you're looking at AOV, and then you're looking at checkout conversion rate. You're looking at your AOV contribution by upsell step, right? So it's like if you look at each thing individually, and you can even break that down just a little bit more. So, for example, you could even track like how many people add to cart. And you know what I mean? So you can break it down in as much detail as you can, because when you find a problem in one of these areas, well, then again, when you have all the high level metrics that you're looking at, and then you find a problem, then you also have the granular metrics that you're looking at. Well, then you, as the owner, spots the problem and then says, hey, team, we have an issue here. Go do a deep dive and figure out what's going on. And you don't have to get involved at that point, because if you have all this and you have the right team members in place and they're all trained properly, or you bring in someone like myself to do that for you, then you get answers and you get solutions to problems, and you get them like that. Because again, find the problem. Like one of the biggest things I say is find the constraint or the problem, fix it, repeat. That's business over and over again, all day long. That's business. And the more granular, the more metrics, the more data you have. This is why I always come back to being data driven, because you have to have the data in order to make good decisions, and you need to make good decisions in order to scale the way that you want to scale. All right, that's simple. The next thing is the scalable offer score. So I have a scalable offer score that I walk people through. It's 10 different components that make an offer scalable. Just look that up. It's in my content. You can walk through it. And that score, you have to have at least a 7. The difference between a 7 and 8 is really big. Difference between a 7 and a 9 is massive. Difference between a 7 and a 10 is absolutely monumental. I'm talking about, like, if you get a 7, you might have a low 7-figure business, maybe 6, 7 figures, something like that. If you're scoring a 10, you're probably up into the multi 8 figures. I've taken at least 5 different offers that I know of to 8 figures. All of them scored very, very high on the scalable offer score, and that's actually why I built that score from looking at all my past successes, and I just put them into the framework. Next thing is segmentation. So with marketing getting harder, with messaging or with attention decreasing, with noise increasing, what you have to do to combat that is talk more specifically to that person. All right. So this comes back to understanding the customer. If you understand the customer, you know how to speak to them properly, and then you can segment them, and then you can break them into buckets. You can talk to them very, very specifically about the frustrations, the objections, what's next for them after they buy a product. You can do behavioral based segmentation, which I love doing. There's all sorts of different ways to take advantage of segmentation, so make sure you're doing it. Next one is a conversion rate optimization system. So I would say don't only look at this in terms of conversion rate optimization. You also have to look at this in terms of, I always like to just break down EPC instead of just conversion rates. AOV is also really important. Maximizing your AOV on that first sale is so important, because the more you can get upfront, the more it liquidates the ad spend. All right. So make sure that you have some sort of CRO system in place, whether, again, it's someone on your team, you hire someone like myself to do it, whatever that is. Make sure you're doing it, and make sure you're testing both conversion rate and average order value. And then over time, you also want to be, it depends on stage of business. You also want to start tracking the long tail effects of changes that you're making. And that way, like I mean, I've seen cases where you just change the messaging, not even price, nothing else. And it increases day one average order value, but also those customers end up worth more over time, over the first 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, because you talk to them in a way that essentially changed a belief pattern they had about how to use your product. All right, and I can do a separate video on that. The next one is having an LTV ascension path. So making sure that, I mean, your customers are very expensive. Inventory is very expensive. Overhead is very expensive, right? So when you have a lot, you have a lot of resistance when you first, it takes a lot to get a customer in the door. It's very expensive to get a customer in the door. And what kills me is that people know this and they know how expensive it is to generate a new customer, and customer acquisition cost is always just increasing. It's always going to, as especially as more competitors enter the market. And so the only thing that you have, not the only thing, but one of the main things that you have to combat uh, high CAC is high LTV. So as CAC is rising, you need to be increasing your LTV at least a similar pace in order to, if you don't do that, you're going to start losing margin. All right. So make sure you have an LTV ascension path in place, taking people and just maximizing how much they're worth to you on a contribution margin basis over time. All right. And again, this is something that I do for clients. In most cases, I do it on a performance only basis. So if you're over $1 million and you want someone, an expert like me, to come in and do it for you, I can do it for you. No upfront cost. It's all performance based. The next thing would be making sure that you have hidden profit centers mapped and tapped. We'll make it rhyme, make it fun. So there are a lot of profit centers that you can be bolting onto your business that you aren't taking advantage of, right? Just very simple example of this is SMS. If you don't have SMS, get SMS. It will make you more money. If you don't have a sales team, add a sales team. It will make you more money. If you don't have an LTV ascension process in place, add an LTV ascension process. It will make you more money, right? So it's really, really important to know what those profit centers are, which ones you have, and then implement as many as you can because it gives you buffer. It adds more tail end profit, which helps to pad your margins. It helps to soak up that high acquisition cost, and it helps you be more profitable. I think the average profit margin in the DTC space is like, I think it's like 8.6% or something like that, give or take a percent. It's like, just say around 10%. That is very low, right? And especially when when you combine that with the fact that D2C brands also suffer the most cash flow issues of pretty much any type of business, right? You have two really, really strong destructive forces fighting against you. So you have to get all this in place so you can survive. When I had my company, the number one LTV adder, that's a terrible way of saying that, but the number one thing that we did that added LTV was our email sequence. So they came in and we did a whole bunch of stuff via email, which added a bunch of profit. Okay. A couple of years ago, we had, I forget what our list was at its peak. We had, I think, close to 150,000 customers. So that's like the total universe, but like, of course, not all of them stay active. There's a drop off, all that. But we had, I don't know, it was maybe like 75,000 or something like that. And we lost 80% of it in 1 month. I hired a whole bunch of people and no one could figure it out. This is years ago. And thank God I went through this exercise and went through all the profit centers that I could think of, got them all in place. They all added up, right? You're not like doubling profit with these. Sometimes you can. I actually have a client right now that I'm working with that I think once we fix one of her or add one of these things, it should roughly double her profit. And so that's something we're working on right now. But have all these in place, know what they are, and then start to implement them, because even if they add a couple percent in revenue, there's no acquisition cost associated. So the leverage that you get, you might add 5% in revenue, but you might add 20% in profit. All right. So super, super important. Again, this is something that I do for people on a performance only basis. This is why I'm so excited about it. All right, so that's marketing. Hopefully that all made sense. And of course, I'm not covering everything, but like if you just get all this in place, you're going to be way, way better off than wherever it is that you are right now. So the next section would be operations. All right, so operations is something. There's a lot of stuff, and there's two ways of looking at it. There's the money side of operations. Like if you get more efficient in your operations, you will make more money, and you can also scale faster without like you can add a whole bunch of revenue without adding a whole bunch of overhead, which makes you more profitable. Economies of scale, where you can add as operating leverage is another way of saying that. You can add revenue, and instead of adding 400, if you say you add a million in revenue, and right now you're adding 400,000 in overhead to be able to service all those new customers. Well, if you can figure out a way to be more efficient on the operational side and only add 200,000, now you're $200,000 more profitable per million people or $1 million, right? So really important. So how do you do that? First, have a hiring process. All right. I talk about this all the time. The amount of people that I see making like massive hiring mistakes is absurd. And listen, I get it. I hate hiring. I'm just gonna say it. I despise that whole process. I hate it so much. It's one of the worst things in business for me. Hate doing it, but it's also one of the most important because your employees create your business. They create the culture in your business. Well, you create the culture in your business, but you have to hire the right people to continue that culture, whatever your culture you're building. Um, and it's just so important. I mean, I'm sure you know the importance of hiring or of employees. So make sure you have a hiring process. Next one would be make sure that you have really, really, really clear job descriptions with KPIs for every single role that you hire. You should have those in place before you hire, not after. And that way, it's going to help you get more specific people. You should not be doing your job description, or you should not be doing finalized job descriptions with AI. You should be doing it, have that help you along the way, brainstorm with it a little bit, but you should have your eyes because every job, a marketing manager in company A and a marketing manager in company B and a marketing manager in company C are all going to have different functions. Yes, they're going to have a lot of the same functions, but it's going to be a little bit different in each company depending on their stage of growth, depending on the rest of the team, depending on the goals of the business, depending on what you're selling. I mean, there's all sorts of variables that go into hiring the same role. So you can't just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a marketing manager description and think that that's going to land you the right person. It is not. You have to be very specific about what you want, why you want them, what they're going to be accountable for, what they're going to be measured on, right? And what success looks like in that role. All right. So get all that in place. So important. Once you get them, have an accountability system, right? That could be you're doing like weekly meetings. You're looking at everyone's metrics. Everyone knows what metrics they're supposed to hit, and then every week you're looking at the metrics. Did you hit it? Did you not hit it? What's blocking you, etc. And then you can also do things like performance reviews, where you're going through and again, how did you do with your metrics? How did you do on the soft skills? Like how whatever. You're scoring them typically the way that I like to do it in a couple different ways. One part of it is on the core values of the company. So like, what do they get? How well are they kind of adjusting to the core values? And then you have performance KPIs that you're looking for. And then I also like to put if there's an ascension path for them, like in their role. So maybe you hire a marketing manager. Well, what needs to happen for you to be a marketing director? What needs to happen for you to be a CMO, etc. And that should all be documented out because then everyone's clear. And then there's no hiring. You should never have an employee that gets fired and doesn't know why, ever. If you've had that happen in your company, it's because they weren't clear on what they were supposed to be doing. All right. And then you can add things like three strike rules and things like that to kind of keep all that going. Anyway, next thing, Was meetings, right? Meetings, oh God, meetings are the worst. I hate meetings. I hate the wrong types of meetings, I should say. And most meetings are not structured. They don't have an agenda. They don't have a clear stakeholder. They don't have specific outcomes, action items, things like that, right? So you have to have the right meeting structure. You have to have a timekeeper, make sure everyone's staying on time. Every meeting should have a specific structure depending on the type of meeting. There's a bunch of different types. So they each should have their own agenda and structure. There's a lot. This is one of those things that like it's so easy. I can literally just give you the templates for meetings, and if you actually implement them, you're going to see an immediate increase in a lot of different things. Time saved, employee satisfaction on the meetings, what gets done on the meetings, all those things. Um, the next thing I would say is contracts, right? So contracts, make sure that you have contracts for all your employees and your vendors, your contractors. Make sure that is all in place. I've seen all sorts of different things happen. So important to have contracts in place. Now, AI again makes that easier and cheaper, right? So make sure you have contracts. Inventory management. If you don't have inventory management, a system in place, make sure you get a system, right? Have predictive analysis or not that word's not coming to me. I guess predictive analysis, not really predictive analysis. You know what I mean, though. But like basically some sort of way of predicting your inventory management, right? And there are a bunch of software and out there for this. None of them are perfect. I know, like we always had struggled with ours. There's certain things that we did that certainly helped, but sometimes it's just impossible to predict what your inventory is going to be because you might have an affiliate that does a massive push, or you might launch something and absolutely crushes it. Like when we launched Peak Buy Boost back in my last business and went from 30,000 a month to $1 million a month in 3 months. It's kind of hard to predict that, right? So with that, it's kind of like attribution. You kind of just have to get it as good as you can and just be constantly working on improving it. Same thing with a cash flow forecast, which we'll get to in the finance section. Uh, Next thing would be proper insurance. So make sure you have insurance. Have at least a general liability policy. Have a cybersecurity policy, especially if you have software or things like that, you're holding customer data. Have some sort of cybersecurity policy in place. And then after that, there's a whole bunch of other different ones. I am by no means an insurance expert. I have an insurance guy that I say, hey, here's what we got going on. What do I need? And then he tells me, and then I get it. And so if you need a guy for that, just reach out to me at hello@scaleadvisors.com or help@scaleadvisors.com, sorry. And I can make an intro to him. The next one would be a compliance system. So make sure you are compliant in all the various things. That includes things like on your marketing, on your ads, on your pages. It includes everything to do if you have like food products. Make sure your labels are compliant. Make sure that you have any necessary stickers that have to go on. So for example, the like Prop 65 in California, right? You can get hammered. There are people that literally are professional litigators and will literally, I'm not kidding, literally, by the way, I'm not kidding because it's happened to me, literally go out and buy your product and look for things that aren't there so that they can sue you. Like they're absolute scum of the earth, but it happens and it's a thing. So make sure that you have all these things in place. Next thing, proper tech stack, right? A lot of people start off with a certain tech stack, and rather than taking a month or so to change things, and like once they get bigger, because kind of like employees generally you hire them, they get it to here, and then the average employee is gonna they're gonna hit a ceiling, and then you have to replace that employee, replace them with someone who's gotten you to the next level, and so on and so forth up the ladder. Now, some, of course, will break through the ceilings and all that, but not all of them. Same thing with tech. Some tech will get you to where you want to be, but then kind of fails, and then you have to start throwing band-aids in and duct taping everything. You don't want to do that. So every once in a while, look back, look at your tech stack, see what's dragging you down, and see if you need to switch anything. Next one would be a product feedback system. So same thing in marketing, but the operations is looking at it from their lens, because their lens is going to be more like a refund reduction, that sort of thing, whereas the marketing lens is going to be more education, information. They're trying to extract why are people buying, what do they love that we could talk more about, etc. The next one would be concentration risk contingencies. All right. So if you're not familiar with concentration risk, that is just simply having too many eggs in one basket. And this could be on the marketing side, like maybe all of your eggs are in the Facebook basket, and you don't have any other channels, or maybe it's just affiliates, or you have only one product that does good. So that would be a product concentration risk. Or maybe you have on the employee side, you have key man risk, which is only one. Like if someone, and this is so common, where let's just say your most important employee, think of them in your head. Okay, now tomorrow they leave, and absolutely no 2 week, no nothing, they're just gone. What happens to your business? If your business doesn't have a plan for that, you're gonna be in shit when that eventually happens. And maybe not that person leaves, maybe it's your second most valuable employee. Maybe something happens to you, right? I mean, maybe whatever. Maybe you lose interest. Maybe you get injured. Maybe you end up in the hospital in a coma. Like whatever happens. Maybe you break both your arms and you can't type for, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many things that can happen in life. Make contingencies plans, figure out where that risk is, and then put a plan in place for if that happens. All right, so that is operations. And then finally we'll go to finance, and this was a little bit shorter, right? So with finance, make sure you start with really clean, accurate books. And with your accountant, make sure that they are e-commerce specific, because there are a lot of nuances with e-com and a lot of different ways that you can set up. There's a lot of different preferences that accountants have, and you need to make sure that you're getting the information that you need to make decisions. I don't give a shit what their existing processes are, how they like to do things. The only thing that matters is that when you look at your P&L, number one, it's accurate, and number two, you can make decisions off of it. All right. So look at it from that lens. The next time, if you can look at your P&L and say, okay, based on this, I know that X, Y, or Z is happening. That's what you need. And it might be that now, maybe it's not, I don't know. But make sure that it is. Second one, I talked about this earlier, cash flow forecast. Make sure you have a cash flow forecast that is built, that is accurate, and that is maintained on a weekly basis. I actually have in mind the way that I like to do is I have a delta at the bottom of it that shows the projected cash at the end of the month, and then we do an actual cash at the end of the month, and then there's a delta. So how far above or below that were we? Super, super important. I like that because it shows you how close you generally be in like a 5 to 15% range. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of factors that go into that, so I won't get into it. But get a cash flow forecast in place if you don't have one now. The next one is a budgeting system, right? So I'm not a fan of marketing budgets. I think that is the stupidest thing anybody could possibly do on the marketing side. You should know. All right, and this is another whole thing. You should know that when you put in $1 in advertising, it takes X amount of days for you to recoup that dollar, not just on the acquisition alone, but also on the overhead per customer. Almost everybody forgets about that part, that you have overhead and you need enough contribution margin from enough customers to pay off the overhead before you make any profit. So very important to understand that. But make sure you have a budgeting system. On the marketing side, you should know what your allowable customer acquisition cost is, and follow that, and get as much volume as you can while staying on target there. That's pretty much the simplest way of saying that. But on the budgeting side, if you're doing company retreats, if you're doing events, if you're doing if you have software. If you're doing a per diem, like for example, if your employees are going to events, there should be per diems that they can do. So just have budgets wherever it makes sense, and it's just simply keeping you strict, right? Keeping everyone honest, making sure that the profit that you get doesn't accidentally leak out of those little buckets. All right, and I've seen some disasters when it comes to this. I mean, I've seen people go 75% over budget for a live event. Like, you can't let that happen. The events are made for a reason, or the budgets are made for a reason. make sure you follow them. Uh, the next thing that I would say is probably a line of credit or some sort of inventory financing, some way to help you keep more working capital in the business. Not necessarily to take out for yourself. It depends on where you are in the business, how much distributable cash that you actually have. But you want to get a line of credit or some sort of inventory financing, something that pays for the inventory, so that you can have more cash in the business. And assuming that you know all your numbers and you know how much contribution margin you're getting from each customer over a specific time frame, when you know all those numbers and you have your data, you can make smart decisions, and you know that you're going to spend X dollars on a customer and you're going to make X dollars plus that by the end of 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And when you know that, you know your return on invested capital. And then when you know your return on invested capital, which is should be in the like at least couple 100% to in the low thousands, depending on a lot of different factors. If you know that your return on invested capital is, let's just say 500%, and you know that that line of credit costs you 10%, that's a pretty damn good trade-off, isn't it? To lose 10% in margin to get 500% more, or well, I guess 490% return on invested capital. I will take that all day long, right? But if you're still paying for everything out of pocket, then it's harder to do that, because once you know that you're getting all that up front. Let's just say that your lead time is 2 months, right? So you're losing all that cash for 2 months. Well, that gives you 2 months of working capital, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you could then put back into ads. And you know that all those extra customers are going to produce X amount of contribution margin dollars in the first year or whatever. And so once you do all the math, and this is stuff I walk clients through. So it's kind of hard. I have calculators and spreadsheets and stuff that I walk people through. It's hard to do at the top of my head. Once you know all that, then you can model out and say, oh my God, I'm going to lose this 10% for the line of credit, but I'm going to gain way, way, way more than that in terms of total profit. All right. So it's worth it in pretty much every case, unless your numbers are just absolutely horrific, uh, which hopefully they're not. And then we have, then I would say making sure that you're doing regular negotiations with your manufacturer and your fulfillment center, or really, and your vendors, and all your top vendors. Make sure you have some sort of system in place for doing payment terms, or negotiations. And same thing on subscriptions too. You should be doing subscription audits like once a quarter. But you get such a outsized return here if you save just a couple percent on that. It makes a lot of a big difference, right? In terms of either cash or profit or both. So make sure you're really staying on top of all your biggest expenses that you have. And then finally, I would say having a state tax system in place. This is kind of operations, kind of finance. Make sure that all of your state stuff is in place, because if a state finds out that you're selling in their state, you're going to owe all of those taxes that you would have owed and penalties, and they can get massive, and they can sometimes come after you. They seize assets, they can shut you down in that state. There's all sorts of different things. Don't put yourself in the position of having that happening to you. All the state tax stuff sucks. I hate it so much. I'm sure you do too. There's things like Tax Jar and all those things that help you with that, or you could just hire someone. You do it like on your own. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to do it. It's kind of expensive to do it. It sucks. It's a pain in the ass. I know, like when I sold my business, then I had to go and close everything down. Like it's such a pain, but it's better than the alternative of getting whacked with a couple $100,000 bill out of nowhere, or getting shut down in that state, or having them seize assets, or whatever the case is, going into, putting liens on your business. Like, don't just avoid that and just do it properly. It's a pain, but it's just one of those things that you just have to do in business. So that is a good foundational list of what a healthy D2C brand looks like. It does not include everything. When I have a service where I actually go through and I look at all this stuff with my clients and kind of give them like like a giant scorecard basically of all these things across multiple areas of the business and everything. And then that way they know where they stand, they know what has to be in place, they know the priorities that they have to get put into, and there's no confusion. They just know exactly what they need to do. We always find hidden profit leaks and new profit centers that we can add. So I'm more than happy to do like a guaranteed ROI on this service. I mean, it's an expensive service because it takes me a long time, but it is. I mean, expensive is relative, right? Because if you're giving me $100,000 and I'm giving you $1 million back, well, very not very expensive, is it? Right. So anyway, I hope this helps. If you want help going through and getting your business in shape like this, like if you're trying to sell it, you want to sell it in a few years, and you want to get all the foundations in place that will make it more valuable, all this stuff. If you want more profit, more cash flow, less stress, this is what I do with clients. So if you need help, if you want help, reach out. Otherwise, take it and run with it. Go through, see where you are with all these things, replay this, give it to AI or whatever and say, hey, make me a checklist, I got to go through this, whatever. And just do it. Just make sure that you don't do nothing. That is the number one thing that I can say is, whether you work with me on this, whether you have your own team do this, whether you do it, whatever the case is, whether you have someone else do it, just make sure you do it. Right. And if this video helped you, make sure you let me know. I would love some loving in the comments, or share this, with someone who needs it. Otherwise, reach out, and worst case, take it, run with it, have it will help your business. So hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next video, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.